seeing this. Okay, hello again, and welcome to the Zoom community gathering. I'm Sohaila Bana, the moderator from 94803 Emergency Preparedness Alliance. I'm very glad that we have Captain Walle with us. We may have other people from the police department later on joining us. We also have Chris, the owner of the shopping plaza, who has kindly joined us to hear the concerns of the community. And hopefully tonight together we can find solutions and feel a little better about the whole situation. Okay, Captain Walle, could you start by presenting a summary of the situation, whatever you know about it, the shooting?
You're on mute, Captain Walle.
My first offense, sorry, I'm sure I'll do it again. But Lieutenant Mollenbernd is on, and I want to see if maybe he may want to share, since he actually, I believe he may have been there.
Good evening, everyone. Lieutenant Tracy Mollenbernd with the Richmond Police Department. I was working Sunday when the sideshow started at Santa Rita and May Road. Had several calls to that location regarding up to and approximately 50 vehicles engaged in a sideshow with spectators, as officers are responding from both the Hilltop and downtown areas to coordinate their response because there was some gunshots that were reported to be shot during the incident. As we're coordinating our response, the group began to disperse and drove down towards San Pablo Dam Road. The vehicles were identified by officers and their license plates were captured for future follow-up. Officers did find at least 4 spent 223 rifle casings at the scene. License plates were ran. They weren't seen involved in the sideshow activity. However, we do have some video that we can follow up on. Because the sideshow wasn't committed in the officer's presence, we're not able to file charges on that other than taking a police report and documenting it for future investigations. So there's 2 ways an officer can take action or file charges: is the officer views it on the street on his own, or if a sworn police officer is watching any type of video footage live and can attest to in a police report, then charges can be filed against that vehicle and or driver. In this case, we didn't have any live video footage. Officers didn't see the sideshow at May and Santa Rita, although as the vehicles left the area, we continued monitoring them, and the group then came downtown to First and McDonald area, and officers were able to see a few of these vehicles involved in another sideshow, which we got the license plate, make and model, and if they were able to provide a description of the driver, we're able to document that. So our traffic section will be following up on those cases to issue warrants for the vehicles that were observed by officers engaged in the reckless driving. They're going to pursue seizure warrants for all of the vehicles that were identified, which enables us to seize a vehicle for 30 days. Not necessarily cite the driver unless the officer can identify the registered owner as the driver. So just the, excuse me, just the impound and tow, excuse me, just the impound and tow alone is going to be in excess of $1,000 for the owner to get the vehicle back. We did have some video from the public, which is helpful, but again, not to disappoint, but we can't file charges on the vehicles if it did capture a license plate, but it is good for future investigation. So video and photos that we get from the RPD stop speed emails is helpful for us for other future investigations. So we're identifying these vehicles, know where they live. In the situation of the sideshows, the majority of them are not from the city of Richmond. The little independent vehicles that are spinning donuts in the intersection, according to the traffic, motor officers and officers, those are typically the city of Richmond residents doing the one or two cars. So there's a difference between reckless driving and a sideshow. Sideshow involves several vehicles, several spectators, and it's not just a problem within Richmond. It's several cities, several counties.
Thank you very much, Captain Mullen or Lieutenant Mollenbernd. Sorry, excuse my ignorance. There are two important, this is what you just described is the second important issue we would like to discuss tonight. The first one is the shooting that has really shaken the community. So I wonder if you or Captain Walle could just provide a brief report of whatever you know about the shooting.
I'm
Please.
sorry, the gunshots that were fired in the sideshow or the
No,
shooting
no,
at the strip mall there?
at the strip mall there.
Okay. I can't go into great detail regarding specific investigative follow-up tips. But there was a shooting that occurred there. There was a vehicle, it was a drive-by type shooting. Individuals in the parking lot were the intended targets. There were in excess of 20 rounds that were fired. We collected expended handgun casings in the area. It appeared that the occupants of the vehicle fired numerous rounds, and at least one person in a group of about 4 to 5 from the parking lot returned fire. During this interaction of gunfire, a 16-year-old female that was an employee of one of the businesses at the tea shop was shot in her shoulder. She was transported to the hospital in stable condition, as she's not going to pass from this incident. She's recovering. We do have some video footage of the vehicle, not necessarily of the suspects. So our detectives are following up on that case. Based on this and other incidents from that area, we've identified that there is a problem associated with people loitering in the business. Our area commanders and supervisors are aware of the issue, and they're working with our investigations to do a long-term approach or a more detailed approach to impacting the problem.
Could you tell us what you know about the gangs that were involved?
The what, ma'am?
Gangs? It was a gang shooting?
Well, I won't classify it as a gang shooting, other than the group of people that were in the parking lot are affiliated with North Richmond.
Okay, but we don't know what the rival gang who started shooting was?
I don't have that intelligence, ma'am.
Okay,
I have a question real quick.
Go
So is there
ahead.
anything that we could do? I've talked to neighbors directly and said that they were throwing trash behind their walls and things like that. And then also, I think you guys are focusing too much on the barber shop. It's also the clothing store that's there. And if you guys haven't noticed, the clothing shop has actually been closed since the shooting. And if you follow his Instagram, or even like who runs the Instagram, you can tell that he claims North Richmond as his hood or territory and who he hangs out with. I mean, it's not that hard to follow his store if you guys haven't checked that out. But just so you guys are aware of that. And if there's anything that we could do about trash being thrown in the parking lot and behind the walls of the residents that live there, because I'm sure you guys live close, but the people that are right behind the businesses seem to be taking the brunt of the noise and trash being thrown.
Would you like to answer that, or should we go to the next question?
No, that would, go ahead, Cap.
Good. Well, and one thing that I was going to mention is something that we've been talking about for a while now is just the challenges with our staffing levels. So what makes what made our agency unique is that we were really big on solving problems. Little things like this, like trash being thrown over a wall into a neighboring yard. You know, people loading in front of barbershops. You know, taking care of these small problems so they don't turn into these big problems. Unfortunately, right now with our staffing levels, our officers are being forced to work overtime, mandatory overtime, and they're really just responding to emergencies. So I'm glad you brought that to our attention. We can address it, but it's a little more challenging now. And I'm glad that you brought Chris to this conversation, because this is typically what we would do. We would try to find out who the store owner is, try to work with them to try to get their tenants to come into compliance. So Chris, maybe after this meeting, we could talk offline and see how we can work more closely together. So thanks for bringing us together. It makes our job, our problem solving, that much faster and easier.
Is there anything
Officer, can I ask a follow-up question? The parking, so again, this is Daniel Garrison, the park.
Danielle, I'm sorry, there are other people who have raised their hands. I'll put
Okay.
you in line.
Thank you. Okay,
Also, Danielle, if you could private message me your email address. Thank you.
I will. Thank you.
Mubin, go ahead.
Hi, this is Mubin, and I just would like to, comment on the police report. I'm sorry, it didn't add any value to our knowledge. We all saw that report in the news. We all saw that on the nexo.com. Give us some closure. For God's sake, somebody's kid was shot while working in the strip mall, a minor kid. It's just a coincidence that it was not my kid, because my kid works there in that mall, in that shop, and it was just a coincidence that he was not working that night. His colleague got shot. Let's keep the focus about, somebody's kid was shot while working there right in front of the high school, and that's a serious matter. And I'm not seeing, any report from the police right now in this meeting, which is really giving us any closure or any information that's useful for themselves, not for the community. I know we can't know the details behind the specifics of what the vehicle was. Do you have the information? Do you not have the information? This is just an article from like eastbay.com or, sfgate.com. Not even, this probably wasn't the news worthy enough to be on sfgate, probably just the local Richmond Standard or something. So I think I want to, keep the emphasis on the matter that somebody's child was shot while working after school in front of the high school, which is supposed to be the safest place. So I think let's keep the focus on that somebody's child was shot in front of their high school. And I need more information and more, a little bit more, concern from the police. Thank you.
Sir, I apologize that you think it's a lack of concern from the police, but we are working investigative leads and follow-up, although I can't disclose the nature of the open investigation. As this comes to a conclusion and we make arrests, we'll definitely make that information available. But at this point, we're not going to disclose what investigative leads we're following right now. And trust that our detectives are working the case. The police department takes it very serious, and we are working with our special detectives to get these people identified. From the grainy video that we have a vehicle description and do not have a license plate number.
Thank you. Joe, go ahead, please.
Well, I do want to thank the officers from the Richmond Police Department for spending time with us tonight. Obviously, both of these situations are very disturbing to the community. I was hoping we could use this format to share what information that we may have that the police may not, to help further the investigations. Lieutenant Mollenbernd, you had mentioned you have video footage from the sideshow of vehicles, but I had also viewed footage of someone carrying what appeared to be some sort of assault rifle in the open. I don't know if that's tied to the shell casings that were found, but I wanted to see if Richmond PD was aware of that footage and if anything's been done to help identify the person carrying that firearm.
That guy was a resident, by the way.
Yes.
He was just trying to get them to leave.
Yes, we have access to the Facebook video, probably the one of the same that you're referring to. The casings located from the sideshow were from a rifle that is similar to the one the individual seen carrying. We do believe that this person maybe not necessarily lives in the area, but was from a house in the area, maybe a visitor or a relative. We don't know that at this point, but we do have that video. The casings located at the shooting scene at call it the strip mall, were handgun rounds. But the casings on both incidents have been collected. They're going to be sent out to the crime lab to be analyzed and hopefully linked to a weapon.
Thank you. Angela?
Yes, my question that I had is if it's possible to get the city involved as far as dealing with the businesses and possibly revoking their business license or getting businesses to comply with, loitering customers or things like that, and try to alleviate some of the work on the police departments, and put it more on, the city's admins responsibility as far as making sure that these businesses licenses that they are giving out, businesses are complying with what they're, the rules that they should be. And then I also had a question in regards to watching, you had stated that you can't do anything unless police officers are watching these videos live. Is it a possibility to hold some sort of training or something for civilians that want to possibly come and volunteer their time to watch the videos? If they were able to go through some sort of training or something like that, is that a possibility for them to be there watching those videos live? If, like I said, they want to volunteer their time to be able to do that to help you guys and take some of that, off of your guys' shoulders.
I don't know. So Angela, so the issue isn't like the resources to watch the videos. The challenge is the law when it comes to misdemeanors. Now, officers, in order to make a misdemeanor arrest, need to witness the crime. So it has to be committed in their presence, or it can also be viewed like on live video. The problem is this is like old English, like law. It hasn't really caught up with technology, right? But so that's just something that we still have to deal with. Same thing with shoplifting. We have to witness someone shoplifting, or a loss prevention officer has to tell us that person shoplifted. You can't just arrest somebody because we are told that that person shoplifted. That's the same for all misdemeanors. That's just what the law is for misdemeanor crimes. Now, if it was a felony case, like someone said, hey, that person shot someone, and we had a probable cause to believe that, we could arrest somebody on probable cause that they committed a felony. So that's a little bit different. So one thing that I'm not sure if you watched the meeting last night on City Council, but we had talked about bringing back our CCTV program. One of the questions from our council members, like, hey, can we get the community involved in helping watch CCTV video, which would help us? And the answer to that is that's a possibility. So that may be a way that you might be able to help in the future, becoming a volunteer at the police department, which would obviously require a background check, would require you to testify in court if needed. But if that's something that you wish you want to do as a civic duty, that'd be a way for you to help us out too.
Captain Walle, is it possible to have a camera in that shopping plaza?
Well, that's something that we would love to do. So you may not know, but we have 38 cameras in the city. Several years ago, they were being monitored by retired police officers. Well, after COVID hit, we eliminated the program, and we thought about bringing it back with civilian CCTV operators. That would be more cost effective, will allow us to upgrade the system, and also allow us to purchase mobile cameras that we can not have to have fixed to a pole, that we can move throughout the city for crime hotspots, dumping problems, things like this. When we have a shooting or loitering comes about, we could basically connect it into our CCTV system. So yes, that is something that we would love to do.
How much does it cost? Can we have it quickly? It's a major issue for the community. So
yes.
So to expedite the process of whatever remedy we can have in place.
So that's something that we can have a conversation with Chris, because what we also do too is some private strip malls, they will actually allow us to have access to their systems. So even if it's not a city-owned camera, some businesses do allow us to have access to their systems.
Okay. Chris, would it be okay with you to install a camera on the property?
Yeah, absolutely.
Okay, thank you very much. I appreciate it. Daniel, you're next.
So I just have a couple of questions for the officer. So my first question is, if it's not the business's responsibility to monitor the parking lots, and the response that I was given from the police officer on the night of the shooting, because I happened to be coming home that night, is that the police are not enough to be able to come out when calls are coming in regarding parking in the red zone, parking, double parking, parking illegally. If police don't have, if there's not enough police to come out to address the issues in the parking lot, and it's not the business's responsibility, how do we go about managing the cars that are in the parking lot? Because I do believe that there is a cover for illegal things to happen in the parking lot, like drugs, because there's so many cars packed into a parking lot with what I believe is 20 spots. How do we as individuals who live in this area help with the parking lot if the police can't come out when we're calling and reporting illegally parked cars? And we understand that that's not an emergency, but it's leading to bigger issues. Follow-up question is, what responsibility does the owner of the building and the businesses have in terms of the amount of people on the property? So if cars are double parking because there's not enough space in the parking lot, are they creating a situation where it's unsafe and it actually is illegal what they're doing? And can that be a reason to revoke their lease? So who manages the parking lot?
I
So-
would like to add a follow-up question, if I may. It's within certain distance from the high school. Some cities have an ordinance that there should be no drug. Lots of weed smoking and other things going on in that plaza. So add that to the question, please.
So any kind of criminal activity in a parking lot would be the police department's responsibility. When it comes to traffic enforcement, we don't enforce traffic laws on private property, so that would be up to the property owner. In regards to any type of liability, that would obviously be a part of the property owner's responsibility as well too. Now, prior to starting the meeting, I had talked about a conditional use permit. That's something that I'll have to look into. I don't know if there's a conditional use permit for any of these businesses there. If there is, and if they're violating that permit, we could perhaps revoke it. Chris can maybe talk about what his tenant agreements are. Maybe they're violating a lease agreement. So that's another approach. In regards to city ordinances, right now, the problem with city ordinances is we don't have a dedicated assistant city attorney to follow up on any city ordinances. That's why we try to use the penal code, because we actually have a deputy district attorney that's assigned to the police department that follows up and files a lot of these misdemeanor cases that normally would not get filed if we were just drop them off at the district attorney's office, because they're just too busy. So we pay $150,000 a year to have a dedicated prosecutor to follow up on some of these quality of life issues. So hopefully that answers the question.
I know people are in line. I'm going to jump in with one question. Is it possible for the city to be on the side of the residents, take a look at the lease and see if there are any violations that helps the property owner to break the lease? Can we ask the city to do that for us, please?
So that wouldn't be something that the city would normally do. We could definitely look at any kind of conditional use permits. That would really be something, a conversation that I could have with Chris. And we normally have these conversations with landlords and property owners. And again, that's what I talked about earlier. That's the type of problem solving that we do that isn't normally a police function, but we're looking to solve problems. So we look at all different avenues on how to, eradicate the problem. If it's a lease agreement violation, then we'll go that route.
Okay, Chris was saying actually he's been trying hard to get a hold of police department and get his questions answered. Sorry, he wasn't successful. I'm going to put you in touch with an email, and hopefully you keep us posted on the progress and everything. Keep the community posted. Thank you. So next we have Teresa.
Thank you. I'm sorry, I came into the meeting a little bit late. So am I understanding that Chris is the property owner of the
Yes.
Valley View Strip Mall?
Yes.
That's correct? Okay. So I was in a meeting earlier and I mentioned this as well. The sideshow participants, I don't necessarily know if they frequent the barber shop that's located in that strip mall, but there has been a significant increase in donuts in the intersection. And basically those same cars are parked in that parking lot. So they stop here, they do their donuts, and then they go and do whatever they're doing in the barber shop. Both of those businesses, since they've opened, it's quite a topic. My whole family lives in this area, extended family, and it's been quite a dinner conversation because it's very noticeable that since those two tenants moved in, there has been an increase in traffic, donuts, and crime. And I'm referencing the shooting. And I think something needs to be done. Wouldn't they be considered nuisance tenants and they should be shut down?
We all agree, but we need to find a legal excuse to do that. And that's what we're discussing here. So hopefully we'll find a solution. Rob? But thanks for the information,
so-
Teresa. I didn't know the two were connected. Thank you. Go ahead, Rob. Sorry.
So I'm actually Danielle's brother. I'm also an attorney as well. So I've been helping her with drafting some of the correspondence that has been dealing with some of the issues in terms of the parking and issues that are going on in terms of the property. There's basically the criminal side of things, but there's also kind of tort law that basically guides the behavior of real property owners. And one of the issues is that if a landlord has actual or constructive notice regarding conditions on their real property and they don't remediate those issues, there could be tortious liabilities that flow from that. So basically, if a landlord is has constructive or actual notice, so like that they actually know that something.
Wait a second, have it paper plate 7, Sam.
So if there's actual or constructive notice of conditions on the property, there can be claims actually for negligent supervision of the property. So I just, Chris, in terms of kind of where we are, there are liabilities that you would have that if you are on notice of the issues going on in terms of what's going on with the property, that you would have to remediate those conditions.
It's wonderful to have an attorney on our side. Thank you,
Right.
Rob. We really appreciate it.
Glad that I could help you guys.
I asked you in a private chat message, please give me your email address. I would like to
Sure.
stay in touch with you. Very much appreciate it. Thanks. Jean?
Hi, I have two questions. Well, one comment and one question. My comment is that it makes me very sad that a shooting doesn't raise to the level of required investigation because a police officer didn't happen to see it. I know if that was my kid, that would not be enough for me. But my question is about the security cameras. So you said there are 38 in the city of Richmond. Can you tell us how many of those are in our local community? So zip code 94803.
Well, first of all, Gene, I think you're misunderstanding what I said earlier. We're talking about sideshows and the shootings. Those are two completely different things. The shooting actually has all our investigators working that lead, those active leads. The sideshows was something completely different. In regards to the cameras, I'm not aware of any cameras that are in your zip code.
So that often happens when it's the city of Richmond and the smaller areas that they have responsibility for in our part of the county. So just to comment that we seem to be a stepchild when it comes to a lot of city either signs or cameras or whatever it is.
Well, we deploy our cameras based on crime rate. So we have a lot more crime downtown areas. So that's where we deploy our cameras.
Well, apparently, maybe we need some here.
And that's exactly why I think a mobile solution, having the ability to move cameras, because when you fix a camera, we have actually an electrician either running power to a pole or climbing or tapping into a pole. The cameras are fixed onto an actual light pole. So those obviously we can't really move around without a large expense. By having the ability to have mobile cameras where we could tap into a power pole, either with permission of say Chris, or maybe nearby a PG&E pole, that we could power those cameras, and that in situations like this would be perfect. That way we could tap them into our existing system. That's the direction we're trying to go towards.
That sounds great. It must be possible because I can look through fire cameras and weather cameras and that kind of thing all over the Bay Area. So it must be possible. Somebody doesn't have to be sitting there.
Yeah, and I agree completely. And of course, our camera system is so old. The Ring cameras probably have better quality big pictures than our cameras do. So that was a whole part of upgrading our system, was trying to get not only better cameras, but also better software to power these cameras. So we're not having to look through hours of videos to find the white car that drove through the intersection, some with LPR capabilities too.
Thank you.
Judy and Serge, I have you next.
Okay. I'm coming into this with a little bit of distance in that I don't live right at the shopping center. However, we've lived in the Valley. I live on Sheldon near the school. And we've lived in the Valley for 30 years or so. Back when that area was actually a semi-vibrant shopping center, not houses. So we've watched a lot of changes over the years. So I'm not quite sure. Maybe there've been other discussions and stuff. I'm deeply upset about the shooting, and I'm deeply upset about the sideshow for different reasons and with different levels of distress. I just would encourage us to step back a little bit, learn what we can do to actually protect ourselves and move through this. I appreciate the legal advice and so forth, but I also appreciate that there are businesses that are trying to make it in that location. And I hope that we don't jump to the fear that something like this brings. We had an office in near the Civic Center, Richmond Civic Center, for over 16 years. And it was a difficult area. But there were times where it was really, really powerful when we got business and residents to come together. When we first moved here to the Valley, the Richmond Police Department had community policing going. They had someone who helped us organize our neighborhoods. It was incredible. That's gone away year after year after year. There's more distance. And that went on throughout. It was connected to the neighborhood councils. And it was, you know, we had what I would consider a vibrant little neighborhood here of about 100 houses that were organized. There's nothing preventing us from taking care of ourselves, not from a crime level, but from a community level. There's nothing that's preventing us from actually being more of a community here in May Valley. So as we move to take on some of these more protective measures, which I totally agree with, the sideshows I do not approve of, the shootings, no way. But I really hope that we can work to actually build our community around this, because that's where safety is really going to come from, is if we have a community that cares and responds and is present, whether it's watching the videos and doing that route, or whether it's organizing with Chris and trying to figure out what we can do, or having Chris really have relationships with tenants that he can work with and so forth. I just hope that we can move to not just move to a fear-based response to this, and realize that there's a lot of reasons that these things are escalating in our area and that we don't jump to conclusions or to stereotypical responses to increases in criminal activity. Thank you.
Thank you, Judy. And I hope that the fact that we are here tonight together as a community trying to discuss it and find a solution is a step towards what you're advocating. I have Serge, and then TM, and then Karina. Serge, go ahead, please.
Hi, everyone. I was on a little bit earlier, and I think some of what I have to say kind of follows Judy's trajectory. There's no way other than viewing in horror what happened to this 16-year-old, and the prospect of bullets being splattered across the storefront, basically in our backyards, is totally unacceptable. In finding quote unquote solutions for that, I do find it a little bit problematic that we have legal people and we have ourselves as organizers and police and the landowner or landlord on the line. We don't actually have the businesses that are kind of at the center of it in a variety of ways in the dialogue yet. And so I trust that the next step would be to invite the business owners, because they're part of the problem. They're also part of the solution. And I think that's just generally philosophically the way I'd like to see this go, with some element of neighborhood organizing coming into it, and kind of trying to turn this around even from a crisis into more of an opportunity. So I don't know how other people think about that. I'd be curious to hear. Thank you.
Thank you, Serge. I should say that Serge suggested it to me before. I wasn't sure how it would go. Wouldn't have been able to moderate a meeting where the tensions are high. I didn't know how residents would react because they've been complaining a lot, at least the portion I heard about the business owner and gang-related activities, especially with regards to the boutique. I wanted to keep it very effective and useful meeting so we can move forward. That's why I invited the business owner. The property owner, Chris, who's kindly with us tonight. If everyone believes it's the way to go to have the business owners at the next discussion, I'll be happy to invite them next. Maybe we can communicate with them. Okay, next is TM, please.
Yes, I just had a question for the lieutenant and the captain. Is there anything that we can do in the meantime to help the community or the businesses around them? Or are we just supposed to sit here and take, what these two new businesses are giving to us? Is there anything that we can do? You mentioned you can't do anything unless a crime is committed in your presence. Is it possible to do a citizen's arrest for misdemeanor or a felony?
No, yes, go ahead and you report all crime. That's the best thing that you can do for us. Oftentimes, what happens is people will report, I heard something, but they don't want to stand on the line long enough to maybe provide their name and allow the officer to follow up with them on what exactly they heard or saw. So if you're willing to come forward and tell an officer what you saw, if you suspect criminal activity, report it. And of course, if it's a misdemeanor, not committed in our presence, and we actually have a caller who's identified themselves, and we're able to confirm that a crime has occurred, the officer will be contacting you, asking you if you would be willing to do a citizen's arrest for whatever that is. You don't actually have to physically arrest that person. You're just making a commitment that if needed, you would be willing to testify in court, to testify on your observations for that misdemeanor.
Is there anything else in addition to that we can do to help you guys in terms of them loitering or littering in the parking lot, or like anything that you need from this community to expedite stuff?
Well, we unfortunately, crime isn't solved like on a TV show where it happens in an hour. We're still the shooting's still under investigation. I don't even have all the answers to what our investigators have uncovered. So when we do basic problem solving, we kind of scan the situation, analyze it, respond, and assess. Right now, we're still gathering information at this point. Right now, I've just been in contact with Chris. I haven't actually had a chance to speak with him directly. That'll be a part of the fact gathering. Who are these businesses? Do they have any type of criminal connections? And that's something that's being looked into. If we could resolve this issue by having the lease agreements basically terminated, that'd be great. But that's something that I don't know if we're even there yet. So in order to respond, what you can do to help us yet, unfortunately, right now, the only thing I can tell you is report any suspected crime at this point. If there's things in the future that we feel you may be able to help us with, we'll definitely be reaching out.
Thank you.
Thank you. Karina?
Hi, good evening, everyone. This is specifically for Lieutenant Mollenbernd and Captain Walle, and it's kind of following up on what TM asked. Even if so I live on May Road, and it's pretty much a nightly occurrence with I just call it the May Road drag strip, because they're, drag racing and doing the donuts. Even if we don't have, say, a make, model, or license plate or driver description, is there a point person that we can contact? Or can you maybe assign somebody to 903 that we can contact so that all that information is together? Or is that something that happens organically within your organization?
I'm sorry, Karina, I missed your question. Could you repeat again? Sorry, I was reading the text to me.
I wish we reporter. Okay, so I was asking Lieutenant Mollenberg and Captain Walle if there's
Thank you. How to contact them directly?
If there's a point person for 94803 so that we can report everything. So that's one question. And the other question, is it valuable to report things even if we don't have information? If it's just, donuts again, it's, 9:30 at night, 11:30 at night, whatever. If that's valuable information so that it can be set up as a hotspot and possibly a case for one of the cameras up at, say, Santa Rita and May Road. So that's kind of like three questions there, but.
Very good question. I would like to add to that, if you could, Captain Wyatt, define the beat for us and tell us who are the officers for our beat.
Yep, so you're in beat 9. You're in the Northern District, but you live in beat 9. Currently, you don't have a lieutenant in the Northern District because that lieutenant has since retired. But if you're familiar with our police department website, if you're on the police department website, and if you go to the patrol division link, I'm actually navigating right now as I speak through it, and you go to the Northern District, you'll see a list of all your beat 9 officers there. You see who they are, their shifts. You have their individual email address links, their phone numbers, and also more importantly, you have a link on top that says email all beat 9 officers. And if you hit that link, if you want to just send us general information, myself, I'll get it down to the sergeants and the officers. So everyone in beat 9 will get that email. If it's an emergency, obviously call 911. If it's a crime in progress but not emergency, call our non-emergency number 233-1214. If you want to just send us general information, you could, and you want it all to know it, use that email all beat 9 officers link.
Yeah, and we're Escalon. So
Yeah.
it's right next to the mall.
Thank you.
And that email is PD, like police department, PD beat 9 at richmondpd.net.
Thank you. And I'll include it in my next email to the community. Appreciate it. Nancy, you're next.
Hi, everybody. I'm really glad that so many people are here. And I wanted to speak to community organizing because Judy and I had the office in downtown, and the police department was amazing for us at that point in time because there was community policing that was happening that we don't have at this point. But the community was also really active. And so along those lines, we already have something in place that the community can plug into and work from. And that's the May Valley Neighborhood Council, which Darcy's the president of, and she's on this call actually. And there's going to be a Zoom meeting tomorrow for that. And so, I would encourage all of us to work through the council because it's kind of the umbrella group for the May Valley. So that's one piece. The other piece I wanted to speak to is a number of years ago, we got speed bumps on Sheldon Drive and also a 4-way stop. And because we had people speeding up and down our street, this has been going on forever. Okay. We've been here 25 years or plus, almost 30 in this house. And, it happens. So, and we were able to get the speed bumps and we were able to get the 4-way stop. And it's been way better for a number of years. I'm interested in, and we've been having a conversation on Nextdoor about this, is looking into what kind of traffic things that we could get, like bots dots, like movable barriers, some different things like that for those intersections, especially like May and Santa Rita, where a lot of the sideshows are happening, because that makes it really uncomfortable for people to do sideshows if they're bumping over things and they, there's barriers in place. So I wanted to kind of put that out to Mr. Walle. I don't know if you're a sergeant. I think you are. Sergeant Walle about that. I know that we had to go through the police department in order to get our bumps and our stop signs and that and through engineering. And we had to get a petition signed. And there's so many of us here that if we all signed the petition, we would have a sizable petition. So I'm thinking about things like that. I'm really happy Chris is here. I think that Chris talking with the police department is going to go a long way towards trying to figure out how to resolve some of the issues that are happening there. The shooting was horrible when I heard that, and that young girl getting shot. And but I think there's a lot of care in this community, and I think that that care will go a long way towards figuring out how to make things better. So, so thank you, and that's my 2 cents.
Thank you,
And
Nancy. It's
And
actually,
I also would ask the Sergeant Walle if he could talk a little bit about the traffic, those traffic things, because it may be different. It's been years since we did it. How we would go about doing something like that, and if it would be possible on May Road because it's bigger.
it's actually Captain Wyatt. Captain Wyatt, would you like to answer?
Yeah, so I believe the process is the same. I've noticed that over the years, the engineering department has taken away that form that they used to have on their website. They used to be able to download a form, go speak with your neighbors to start the process. I'm not sure if they purposely took it off, but we still have to, it looks like we probably still have to follow that process. So when we went to City Council last night to ask more resources to help for sideshows, the direction we were given was also to look by Council Member McLaughlin, was to also look at some of the other alternatives that aren't law enforcement related. So looking at some of those engineering kind of maybe responses to engineer the roads a little bit better. So we will be reaching out to Public Works Director, and a part that will be a line item. And bottom line, it comes down to money. Traffic roundabouts cost about $100,000. You're not just dumping a soil in an intersection, you have to engineer the whole intersection. So that's something that we'll be looking at, different alternatives, so the City Council can decide, okay, what's feasible, what's affordable, and really what will the community want. Some community members don't want roundabouts. Some community members would be happy if you stuck some pylons there to prevent people from doing roundabouts. I had a neighbor in the north and east wanted an abandoned RV towed into the intersection to be an immediate roundabout. So every neighbor is different. So that'll be the options that will be given to City Council for them to make that determination.
Thank you very much. I just wanted to briefly add that I was at the City Council meeting last night too, because we had a video clip of what was going on. We sent to the City Council members and mayor because we suggested solution, because we also had video clips about the butts that's working and sent that to all of them. And mayor later on asked me how they work. I sent him another video clip, and all the information were sent by the neighbors, by you. So I really appreciate us coming together via email, putting pieces together. We were successful getting their attention. Their first motion was to have a solution within a week. City manager said that's impossible. She would need 2 months. That's why they're going to have a report in 2 months. But I said, again, another neighbor, Ramon, said we could have concrete planters for a temporary quick roundabout that would be efficient. And I proposed it, and they said, yeah, let's have it. City manager said, we need time. They said, okay, in a month, bring us a report. So let's see how it goes. Keep pushing, please show up to the City Council. Thank your City Council members for unanimously having passed it. So the city manager is acting on it. Okay, back to the discussion. My apology. Danielle, go on.
Sorry, so I have another question for Chris. So again, because I know a lot of people have joined, again, I'm Danielle Garrison. I'm the president of Valley View Estates, the homeowners association. So I'm speaking on behalf of 43 other homeowners that are behind the strip mall where the shooting happened. So again, I want to come back to, I'm reading what everybody's posting in the chat. I want to reiterate that the 43 homeowners in Valley View who are taking the brunt of what is happening with the business. I also did not mention that a few weeks ago, 2 women were coming out of one of the homeowners' homes at 3 o'clock on a Friday afternoon, and they were held up by 2 individuals. Their car windows were all shot out. This happened 3 weeks ago on Escalon Circle. So we've had 2 major things within 3 weeks since these 2 businesses. And again, I understand the comments before about not demonizing the businesses, but there does seem to be a correlation between the 2 new businesses that have opened and 2 major criminal things happening within the last 3 weeks. Because we know now that stuff is happening in that parking lot, my question is to Chris. Chris, you are saying that you do not at this point have a way of breaking the lease. I understand. I also understand that we want thriving businesses in that small strip mall. We all want that as a community to not have an abandoned building. Chris, can you work with the businesses to say there are safety issues in the parking lot? The police are saying that it is a private lot. They can't do anything, even though there's double parking and there is crime happening in the parking lot, but the police are not witnessing it because they can't be there 24/7. Chris, can you work with the businesses to say, we'd like to see you, as the 4 businesses, hire a security guard, hire somebody who was there monitoring when the businesses are open, because we know that there's damage being done to homeowners in the community. I'd like to see Chris join in here and say, what can he do to encourage these businesses to make sure that the community surrounding this strip mall feels safe?
I guess I'd like to start by saying that I don't like, correlation doesn't really mean causation, right? So it could have been connected, it could not have been connected. It could have been because of COVID, because violence is up everywhere because of COVID. So I guess I don't agree with the premise that the businesses are involved here. So like I said, I can talk to them. I can talk to them about the loitering and everything like that, but I don't think the business owners would feel safe going out there and kind of trying to shoo these people out anyways, right?
But Chris, can they post simple things if you don't? So again, what I'm asking is a security guard to be on the premise because things are happening that are safety concerns. There is a nuisance, there is loitering. We're not asking the businesses to do it, but to hire, because I know Valley View right now, the discussion is around us putting up a gate in our community. Our community doesn't want to do that. This community has been here for 15 years. The idea of putting a gate in front of our community because the homeowners do not feel safe here is not fair to our community, but we're going to take the financial hit. The community will have to put a lot of money in to put a gate in the front. We're now asking also for your businesses to work with your property so that there could be safeguard in those parking lot when those businesses are open, because although the businesses are maybe not directly related to the crime that's happening, stuff is happening in their parking lot while businesses are operating. People are coming, they're going to the different businesses, cars are packing into a tiny lot, and there is a safety concern. Can the businesses hire a security guard? Can they post signs saying you cannot be double parked? Can they post signs saying we believe in a safe community here? Something that shows the community is aware of what's going on. We don't, there's a school across the way. We don't believe in drugs openly being smoked in the parking lot. Again, I don't know what the language is, but can we work with the businesses to say to them, we're not demonizing you, but how are you going to help us knowing these things are happening? If the businesses are truly scared, then you would think that they would want to do their very best to make sure a shooting never happens again on their facility.
And just to make it clear, the shooting was bad for all business, right? They suffered a huge decline in customers and things like that after the shooting. So it's not something that no one wants. And I'm sure they'll be open to a conversation. So I can absolutely have that conversation with them and see what we come up with as a possible solution.
Thank you, Chris. Garland, please. You're muted. Unmute yourself, please.
My name's Garland Ellis. I'm president of the Richmond Annex Neighborhood Council. I'm also the PIO for the RNCC. Some background information that you probably want. Last night, during the city council meeting, if you watched it all the way to the end, there was information given out, not directly, but indirectly, about which way the RPA wishes to go. They don't really want to hire any more police. They're going to be hesitant about giving tools to the police department. What they really want to do, and this has been on their agenda for 20 years, they would prefer to have traffic calming issues throughout the city. In other words, they would like to have roundabouts like they have in Berkeley. Things about roundabouts. They slow down the response of police, ambulance. Depending upon how they're built, they will also slow down fire response. Sometimes they can be placed low enough to where a fire truck can go over them, but it does slow down the response of all emergency traffic. It also slows you down And if you put in things such as speed bumps, lumps, or the different types of traffic calming issues that they have, yes, it slows down traffic. It also slows down police response, ambulance, fire truck a little bit. It also does slight damage to your vehicle unless you really slow down all the time. And it doesn't necessarily destroy your vehicle right away, but after many years of going over those things, it does take a toll on your vehicle. The other thing about using spots, which was actually developed by an engineer at San Jose State, they will probably cause a vehicle that's trying to go sideways across one to lose some control. There's another thing, though, that it definitely will do. They are detrimental to anybody who's riding a motorcycle. I've known of people who have been riding a motorcycle safely, but especially when things get a little bit of damp, wet, and a motorcycle hits one of those, they can lose control very, very easily. So it will affect not only the people that you're trying to discourage, but it's also going to affect the people who are driving safely through your neighborhood. So anytime you think of putting up something engineering, you want to think about it in the long term. How is it really going to affect my neighborhood? We have some streets that have speed bumps on them. What happens, though, is traffic then moves over to another adjoining street. So you may shift the problem off of the street that you're on, but it's going to move over to another street that's close by. And you have to say, is that really fair to your neighbors? And the engineering department will readily admit this, as will the police department. So when you go to do traffic calming measures, don't think of it just in the short term, think of it in the long term. And how's it going to affect the whole neighborhood as a whole? You really want things to be better. And so you have to work together with your neighborhood council president, with all of your neighbors, to see if you can come up with solutions that will help everybody. And if you work together as a group, you're more likely to accomplish things through the city. The police department will love it when you work with them. The engineering department will love it when you work with them. Your neighborhood council will become stronger and have more of a voice and a say at the city council meetings. Even if you're in the minority, eventually you do get through. And you got to keep working at it year after year after year. I've been in this city for 66 years. I've been working at it a long, long time. You don't always get your way, but if you keep up and working at it, you get more of your way. And that's what you got to realize. You don't want just a short-term solution of somebody putting up concrete in the middle of the street, because you don't know what the detriment's going to be 5 years from now. You want to think things out and go at them calmly and rationally. Thank you.
Thank you, Garland. Rob, please.
Sure. So I just wanted to kind of explain to you guys too. So the nuisance theory, like basically to Chris, to your point before regarding causation and correlation, the test in a tort case is actually but-for causation. So if you can show that prior to the businesses coming into the community, there was no issues, and then you look after the businesses come into the community, you prove the but-for causation test that would be required to establish liability regarding a nuisance. So it's not really a correlation issue. It's really but-for causation. In terms of an injunction, so basically to kind of limit the ability for the businesses to continue to do business in the area, you could try to get an injunction on the theory of a nuisance. And basically what that means is that if the businesses are causing you to not be able to quietly enjoy the property as you did before the businesses were there, basically a court would grant an equitable remedy that would prevent those businesses from continuing. So that might be something that you guys think about. The other thing too is that it seems to be an allocation issue in terms of the police department. So you would really want to lobby your town supervisor and the mayor, as well as the city council, to make sure that you're basically getting an apportionment of resources in terms of community policing, to make sure that patrols in the area are basically being brought up to be able to kind of address any of these issues before they rise to the level of what happened with the shooting again. Thank you.
Thank you, Rob. Before Chris says anything, I would like to ask Captain Walle, is it possible to ask for more policing or community policing or patrol in our area, please, in light of recent happenings?
When it comes to crime stats, you're actually getting more policing than most other neighborhoods. If you look at it from that perspective, see smaller geographical area, less crime, and you actually have a dedicated officer. You look at something like Beat 7, we're at downtown by the police department, or where the city hall is, probably, I'm looking at maybe just as big as your district, but a lot more calls for service. Again, it's one of those things where we put the cops where the dots are. Actually, something that you should probably want to know is through this reimagining task force, they actually want to lessen our staffing levels, which would be less than 9 officers per shift, which would mean bigger beats, which would mean even less police presence in your neighborhoods. So that's something that hopefully everyone here is aware of the movement to reimagining policing and what's this done to our department. We're down to 145 officers, sworn personnel, not just officers, but sworn personnel. When we were up to over 200 when I first started. The city's population has only gotten bigger. We've got a lot more, housing in Richmond, and we're getting less officers. So we're doing our best. Again, I was earlier. There's a comment about the police not doing enough. I was off 3 hours ago. I'm here on my own time. I don't get paid overtime, but I'm here because I know that this topic is very important to you. It's important to me too.
We really appreciate it. Thank you very much. Darcy, you had your hand up. Do you still have a question or no?
Well, I was just going to talk about how I do believe there's been an impact already with the police, because we had a Beat 9 officer that we could email and was very responsive. And it's just been difficult lately. I think this is a real issue. Steve's on top of it. He can talk about it. The task force is a problem in our community right now. We need the police. We need the officers. I also wanted to say that I was there at the sideshow and talked to an officer, Barbara, who seemed to really know a lot about it. And he gave me his email and the neighbors around his email if we want to touch bases with him. And I put it in the chat. But thank you, Officer Al and Lieutenant Mullen. I don't know how to say your name. But thank you for being here tonight. Really appreciate it.
Yeah, really. Thank you all. Stephanie,
you want to say your last name?
Mollenbernd? Lieutenant Mollenbernd?
Lieutenant Mollenbernd.
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 Thank you. Stephanie has a question, but I have a question follow up on what Darcy, actually somebody wrote here. Captain Walle, you have lots of experience with the police department, with gangs. We didn't have this issue in our neighborhood before. As Teresa said, when those businesses came, we have shooting, we have sideshows. As residents, what can we do to discourage that, to dampen it?
I think it goes back to reporting suspicious activity when you see it. Oftentimes people assume that someone else is going to report it and don't call in crime. I know that crime is always underreported to begin with. I'm looking at the crime stats here for the area around the barbershop, and I'm counting about a dozen crimes. Yeah, I'm actually counting a total of 12 crimes in the last 6 months. And I know that there's been a lot more. I do see the one on Escalon Circle that that Danielle, I believe, had spoken about earlier, but I know there's a lot more than that. So if we're going to really try to connect something to the barbershop, we just need more people calling in. And I'd be more than willing to work with Chris to try to make that connection. I do believe there is a connection. There is a correlation to what's going on to that barbershop. We just have to make that connection. So the more you call, the more we can kind of connect those dots together and provide this information to Chris to take proper action.
Could you give some examples of the things people should report, but often think maybe they shouldn't?
Well, just a suspicious car. And again, our calls are prioritized. We have 9 officers on duty. So the calls are going to be prioritized. So oftentimes people don't call the police because they think, oh, the police officers never showed up. We're going to show up, and you may not see us there because maybe the call held for an hour or 2. But call us even if we're late, at least we capture the data. So if you're not even calling it in, we're not even capturing that data for the most. So it looks like it didn't occur. We run crime stats, it didn't occur if you don't call. So
Very good.
suspicious vehicle, loud noise, stuff like that.
So we call or we email you? If we call, give us a number, please.
Yeah, no, call the non-emergency number 233-1214. Press 0 to bypass the prompt and call it in. And again, if they're going to prioritize a call. Oftentimes we have an officer that might be around the corner, so you never know.
Okay, very good. Thank you very much. Stephanie, go ahead, please.
Hi there. Thanks for having me. Just want to let you guys know, I come from the neighborhood of Richmond, but I'm actually working in Oakland right now. And this is a challenge that is facing many communities around the country where the budget, the defund police budget has taken resources away from the police officers and putting it in departments that don't have the expertise or the training to manage certain things that are happening. And so I thank you for letting me be in here today because I'm supposed to be participating on the disaster preparedness. And what I wanted to mention is that we're realizing that as more disasters and things are happening, it seems like there's a shift for police officers needing to be on that area. And I think that we need to count on communities a little bit more to support the officers. And what we had been doing is, and I could say that I got this from Richmond. We had started putting together neighborhood stewardship programs that are a little bit different from the disaster preparedness. Disaster preparedness knows, what to do for food and traffic and get things to where people are. But the community stewardship program is where the community members, there is someone designated to report crimes or to keep an eye. And so basically people on the block, if there's something suspicious going on, they report it to that neighborhood block captain, and that person in that neighborhood can better try to either deal with the situation before it gets to the police and manage that situation. And so also what that needs to be is some training from the police officers and the system set up where the police officers have targeted people that can report back to them based on a community culture. So where you don't get people that are reporting back when they should, you would get you'll get more people reporting back because they're now tasked with reporting back. And if the fund the police, the money is being reappropriated, maybe we can create a community fund that allows these community stewards to be funded to work with the community and manage this. And it may not be something that we're used to doing traditionally, but I think that I know you guys understand the issues, some of the challenges that are happening with Oakland. I just think that neighborhoods need to step up a little bit more community policing. And I think there's, and I'm seeing that the demographics here, there are probably some people within the community that could support, but need to be invited to the table.
Interesting idea. Thank you. Captain Walle, do you think if it's doable, can we ask the police department to have such training for us?
I'd probably have to get more information from Stephanie regarding what exactly she has in mind. We definitely still have Michelle Milan, who's our crime prevention manager, that does a lot of community outreach that I'm sure could put something like that together. And again, we're responsive to the community's needs. I don't want to bash the defunding movement. I hate to use that term, but that's basically what it is. But it's a group of citizens who came together, they made recommendations, city council adopted them, and we have to carry out the will of the city council. We have to do our best with the resources we have. Ideally, every department in the city would like to have more resources. We don't have them. So we're going to do our best with what we have. So please don't think that I'm saying that those services are very much needed. Homeless outreach and helping kids get jobs, cleaning up the city. I believe in all those. I just don't like the fact that it came out of our budget to do that. And really, what it came out from unfunded. It came out from positions that weren't filled. We still have 9 vacancies there. But what happened, the unintended consequence is that it demoralized our workforce. Officers left. Now we have mandatory overtime. And that's the unintended consequence of this movement, is that people don't want to work here and people are actually leaving here. And that makes it harder to attract people. No one wants to go to a place where people are leaving. So that's the problem. Definitely show, what you can do is, talk to city council when they have them support, or at least change the perception that we're not being supported.
Thank you very much for the information. Stephanie, if you could please direct message me your email address. I would like to follow up on the idea. And maybe we have something for our community. Judy, I see your hand up. I don't know if it's from the past or you have another question.
Yeah, I'm gonna. No, I do have another comment. Again, I just don't want us to do what I think the city council did in terms of jumping into solutions that aren't really ready to be presented to the community. So I really encourage us to continue these discussions, because I think that we can come up with something that's really workable if we really put our minds and hearts into it. I do, I'm not a defund the police person. I am a reform the criminal justice system, because I don't like what it has developed into over the years and is there currently. We've had incredibly positive relationships with police in the past, but I'm not without criticism in terms of policing. I just, the comment that came earlier about how us being like a stepchild of Richmond or whatever, I can't remember what was said, but we don't have to act like a stepchild. We're actually a pretty good, powerful stepchild if we're a stepchild, because there's a lot of privilege here in May Valley. We've had our office in the Flatlands, and we lived in the Flatlands of Oakland. And I know I worked in the community as a therapist, and I know the problems that are faced in greater Richmond, okay? So we out here, even though I totally want us to remain safe and secure in our homes and our neighborhoods, but I want you to realize that we have a lot of privilege. People live with shootings every day in the Flatlands. And if we don't want to be treated like, quote, stepchildren, then let's start coming together. Let's start coming together as a community and act like a family instead of like stepchildren or others, okay? And let's find a place that we can really create belonging in all of Richmond. That's the only way that we're actually going to solve these problems, and it's not going to be solved by police, I guarantee you. If it was, we would not have any crime, because there's a lot of police and a lot of budget that goes to that department. That's not the solution. So what the heck is the solution? I believe that that's what we're in search of, and I don't think that we should jump as quickly as the city council did in trying to actually say we now have a solution. I don't think theirs is going to be real successful in the way that I would love to see criminal justice reformed. So anyway, enough of my soapbox. Thank you.
Thank you. We have one more question from Nancy, and then after that, I will ask Captain Walle if they want to continue, or we should end the meeting, because they're here out of their own time, and Lieutenant Mollenbernd and Chris, who has kindly come here. So Nancy, go ahead, please.
So I want to kind of backtrack to to what Stephanie was saying, and I really appreciated it, Stephanie, because we've lived in the time where there were neighborhood watch groups. There was a whole system that happened in Richmond, from the neighborhood watch groups all the way to the neighborhood councils. And it was a wonderful system that happened. And I want to echo Captain Walle in terms of Michelle Milam, because she studied with, she learned from, mentored with Raymond, who was the person that did all of that neighborhood council stuff. And it was really wonderful. And I agree with Stephanie in terms of the fact that we need to step up more as a community, because we do have the privilege to be able to do that. And I think it would be a very powerful thing. And I think it would be good to bring Michelle Milam into the conversation. She's wonderful. She has lots of knowledge, lots of experience. And I think it would be good to have a conversation with her, like maybe even bring her to the May Valley Neighborhood Council meeting tomorrow night and have her be a part of that discussion. Thank you, everybody.
Very good. Thank you. Okay, I'll let Gary be the last question. Go ahead, Gary. You need to unmute yourself, please.
So this isn't so much a question, but a background on the police staffing. So the staffing started declining back in the 2013-14 budget cycle. And it took off big time in 15-16, and it basically is going down because the city of Richmond isn't bringing in the revenue they need to run the city of Richmond. At least that's what it sort of looks like. But what the council did this last round, where they had an option to fund their program with money that didn't come from the police department, and the option to take money from the police department, was basically a vote of no confidence or a slap in the face, the way I looked at it, to the police department. The $3 million represented the 12 officers that the chief couldn't fill those vacancies. She can't fill those vacancies. And I think it's pretty clear the department, I think it was even mentioned tonight, the morale is down. The morale is down. It looks like it's down probably in a lot of police departments. And there's no easy fix for this. We need more officers. Obviously, we need a better revenue stream to help fund some of these things. But this last budget cycle clearly showed that the people on the Richmond City Council don't like police. So I have one other thing to mention, just as an aside. As I was doing some research, I ran across this thing from SEIU Local 1021, and they're bragging about the fact that they're about ready to finalize negotiations with the city of Richmond for 13% raise over 2023, 24, 25, and also a $3,800 bonus, one-time bonus. That will go in effect immediately after the new contract is signed. So I don't know who does the negotiating, but I want to say that, so the closing comment on this thing was, none of this would have been possible without the hard work of our members to elect pro-worker city council members, pass revenue measures to fund city services, and show up at union rallies, city council meetings, and other actions that support the city of Richmond workers. So in my mind, the SEIU pretty much owns the RPA, and the RPA is doing, probably those people are all members of the SEIU, maybe except Gail. So the long-term fix here is a little different. I mean, there's got to be some political changes. And I think that's what Sohaila is maybe all about to start with.
Thank you,
But,
Gary.
But that's what I got to say for right now.
Thank you for the comment. So at the end, I have a couple of questions for the community. Is it okay? Should we invite the business owners and have a civil conversation with them to see how it goes? Chris, I would like to get in touch with them through you if possible.
That's fine. I can just email me. I'll have them email you or something or call you.
I appreciate it. Thank you. And let's talk about it. I would like to sincerely thank Captain Walle and Lieutenant Mollenbernd for joining us tonight. And thank you very much, Chris, for joining us. So Captain Walle, do you have any idea when you will have some results of an investigation, when we should have our next meeting, or should we just go ahead and it's indefinite?
With the actual shooting itself, no, I don't have a timeline for that. I know that the shooting though was likely tied to a larger investigation that's occurring in the city regarding other shootings. So as far as specific details to the young woman who was shot, I won't have any response to that until the detectives are able to identify a suspect and release that information. But I definitely do want to stay engaged. I'm committed to working with all of you to try to find some solutions, especially Chris. I think Chris is a key to this thing, being that he's the owner of that strip mall. Definitely work with you, Chris, and give you whatever resources we can provide. Please, all of you, call in if you see something suspicious. Help us out. Let us get that data. So if there is a nexus, we can make that connection to the businesses, which would actually help Chris out.
Thank you. And if the two of you could work on installing a camera in that shopping plaza, that'd be awesome. So we have some news about it at our next meeting in a couple of weeks or so. With that, I would like to end the meeting and thank you all community members for coming here. Together, we can make the difference. I strongly believe in it. If we care about what's going around us, we'll be able to do something about it. If there is a will, there is a way, and together we can find it. Thank you very much again. Good night, and we'll have our next meeting in a couple of weeks or so. Thanks so much.
Where can we get the recorded meeting for tonight? The recorded meeting, where will you post that from tonight?
I'll add you to my mailing list if you're not, and then I'll send it in one of the future emails.
Great, thank you.
Of course, thank you. Thank you very much, everyone. Have a good night.
Thank you, Sohaila. I know how much time this takes.
Of course. Thank you, Jean. Have a good night, everyone.
Bye-bye.
Good night.
Bye.